Everything begins normally in a quiet fishing village in northern Japan. But today, everything would change for one man. Yoshie Shiratori is arrested on suspicion of a gruesome crime. The courts give him a quick trial. He is convicted without clear evidence. The verdict? Guilty. Under pressure with a gun to his head, he confesses. A confession that will put him behind bars for years, yet he was just a simple fisherman. A man who loved the sea, not a criminal, and certainly not a murderer, but fate had other plans. In prison, the real nightmare begins. Yoshie is tortured daily. Broken mentally and physically, with no hope in sight. The world moves on, unaware of what happens behind closed walls. Up north, away from the cities, away from justice, they send the forgotten. They lock them away, and hope no one asks questions. Before his sentence began, he made one request: to be sent south, where prisons were more modern and the guards less brutal. Instead, they sent him north, to one of the harshest prisons in the country, Aomori. The bars slam shut, a sound that burns itself into his mind. He knows he has to get out. Sitting here innocently and abandoning his family was not an option. Pacing in his cramped cell, he runs through every possibility. He knows he's innocent, but no one cares. And justice means nothing if you're locked away for something you didn't do. He needs to escape. It's the only way left. In the washroom, despair hits him hard. No way out. No ideas. Just emptiness. But then, he sees something. A new bucket with a thick metal handle. His eyes lock onto it. Maybe this is the chance he's been waiting for. Carefully, he snaps off the metal piece. Hides it. The beginning of something no one would expect. He starts watching everything. Every movement of the guards. Every step they take. Every change in routine. He memorizes it all. Then, the moment comes. In the dark, with shaking hands, he pushes the wire into the lock. It clicks. The door opens. He escapes. After sneaking out of the building unnoticed, he slips through a hole in an old fence. But freedom is still far away. He's outside the walls, but he's still deep in danger. If they notice he's missing, the area will be locked down within minutes. Every step he takes now could lead him straight back to his cell. Hours later, the guards return for a routine check. They knock at his cell door. Everything looks just as it should. A body lies under the blanket. They step inside, take a quick look, and leave. No questions, no alarm. On the next round, something feels off. They knock again. The blanket hasn't moved. Exactly the same position as before. Too still. Too perfect. Suspicious? They step inside and pull it back. Underneath, just wooden planks. No one there. He had fooled them. By that time, Yoshie is already far away. Beyond the walls. Beyond the search radius. Free. But freedom comes at a price. He has no money. No way to work. He's still a wanted man. Desperate and on the run. He comes up with a plan. A hospital. If he can steal some medication, he might make it through the next days. Not for profit. Just enough to survive. Late at night, he slips inside. Takes only what he needs. Nothing more. But someone sees him. A call is made. And once again, Yoshie is arrested. But this was just the beginning. Because Yoshie Shiratori would escape 3 more times, each one bolder and more unbelievable than the last. The door slams shut once again. Another cell. Another number. Yoshie is back behind bars. This time, it's Akita prison. Still in the cold, unforgiving north. Still far from anything that resembles justice. He sits in silence, holding a drawing of his daughter. She's smiling. And for a brief moment, so does he. But it doesn't last. He's failed her again. And now more than ever, he knows he can't stay here. But Akita is different. The cell is high and narrow. The door has no lock on the inside. There's no clear way out. High above him, near the ceiling, is a single window. Small and almost unreachable. And now there's something else. Because of his last escape, they've chained him. Handcuffs, day and night. No exceptions. But handcuffs were never a problem for Yoshie. He could unlock them with almost anything. And soon, they were off. He studies the walls, braces himself between them, legs stretched. And slowly, he climbs toward the window. The bars are strong, but the frame around them is made of wood. That catches his attention. He climbs again the next day. And the day after, he wets the wooden frame with whatever he can. His breath, his spit, even the little water they gave him. Bit by bit, he weakened it. Day by day, the wood softened until it finally began to give. Still, he continued to wait for the right moment. Then it came. A fierce storm was approaching. He knew the time had come. It was the perfect cover. No one would hear him now. He climbs again, his hands soaked, his breath steady, and with a final pull, he breaks the weakened bars free. He vanishes into the storm. Gone. The escape succeeded. But like before, freedom wouldn't last long. This time, he doesn't run blindly. He goes to the only man who ever treated him with dignity, a prison guard named Kobayashi, one who never raised a hand, one who once looked him in the eye, a prison guard who once treated him like a human being. Hungry and exhausted, Yoshie knocks at his door. Kobayashi lets him in. Without a word, he places a warm meal in front of him. As they sit, Yoshie speaks. He begs him to call the courts, to reach someone who could listen, someone who could help. He tells Kobayashi the truth. He hadn't done it. He was innocent from the start. They had tortured him, treated him like an animal. That was why he escaped. Kobayashi nods, says he needs to use the bathroom, but instead, he picks up the phone and calls the police.
911, what's the emergency, please?
Back at the table, they eat in silence. Kobayashi barely touches his food. He's waiting. Outside, a car pulls up, tires on wet gravel, doors open. Then, a knock at the door. Moments later, Yoshie's in handcuffs, again. Another escape ended, another chance lost. But deep inside, something remained. He wasn't done yet. Once again, he asks to be sent south, somewhere more humane, somewhere prisoners were treated with basic dignity. But instead, they send him farther north than ever before. Abashiri, a place built not to hold men, but to break them. The journey is long. Snow falls endlessly as the prison car winds through frozen roads. At the end waits a cell colder than the mountains outside. No lock on the inside of the door. No warmth. Just one tiny window. And this time, the handcuffs stay on behind his back. Only during meals, he is allowed to move freely. Sitting on the cold floor, eating in silence. This time, the guards are sure. There's no way out. But Yoshie already knows his next step. He has no tools, no help, only one weapon left. Time. And he has plenty. Every day, he dabs the edges of the window bars with his miso soup. Soon rust begins to spread along the bars. Slowly and quietly corrosion spreads. The days turn to weeks. The sun rises and falls again and again above Abashiri. Some guards notice the rust, but they laugh it off. The window is far too small for any man to escape. But once again, they were wrong. They still didn't understand who they were dealing with. After months of waiting, he takes the next step. Late at night, alone in his cell, he forces his body into position. First one shoulder, then the other, until both are dislocated. The pain is overwhelming, but now he fits. He squeezes through the narrow window, every inch a battle. An alarm rang out, guards flooded the halls, but by then he was long gone. Once again, Yoshie Shiratori had vanished. All that remains is open handcuffs. But this time, the guards don't panic. They just laugh. Out here, there's nowhere to hide. Only snow, mountains, and death. If he doesn't freeze, they say, the bears will finish him. But they were wrong again. Yoshie didn't die. He adapted. He began living deep in the forest, surviving on whatever he could find. Nuts, roots, and small animals he caught with his bare hands. His shelter was a frozen cave hidden from the world. For nearly 2 years, he stayed there in silence, completely alone. Then, one day, during a long and desperate journey through the wilderness, he stumbled upon a small village, quiet, isolated, almost forgotten by time. It looked like nothing, but what he would learn there changed everything. That was where he heard the news. America had dropped the bomb. Japan had lost the war. And the world he once knew was gone. In his mind, he saw the flames, the ash, the bodies, the soldiers who never came home to their families and friends, to the lives they left behind, and the futures they never got to live. And then came a thought. Maybe now, under American occupation, he had been forgotten. Maybe, finally, this was his chance to stop running. One thing now drove him forward, the only thing that ever truly mattered: his family. After years in hiding, he set off once more, determined to find his wife, his child, and to make sure they were still alive. A long, frozen journey south from Abashiri. Not to escape this time, but to find his family. He made it as far as Sapporo, exhausted, starving. Behind a quiet house, he spotted a tomato plant. Just one small fruit hanging low. He picked it without thinking. Hunger left him no choice. But he wasn't alone. The landowner caught sight of him and mistook him for a thief who had been stealing from him for years. He attacked without hesitation, swinging a shovel. Yoshie defended himself with the first thing he could grab, a piece of metal from the ground. But the strike landed too hard. The man collapsed and died. The police arrived quickly, cordoned off the scene, and collected evidence. The media followed soon after. Headlines flared: escaped convict kills again. No mention of self-defense. No second chances. He was arrested on the spot. Another trial. Another verdict. Guilty? This time, the sentence was death. 2 murders, they said. One he had never committed. The other, a tragic accident born from desperation. Until the execution, he was sent to Sapporo prison. The prison was unlike any he had seen. The windows were no wider than his wrist. The door had no internal lock. The slit in the door had been sealed. This time, they had thought of everything. Escape, they believed, was not just unlikely, it was impossible, even for him. But Yoshie didn't panic. He didn't resist. He lay quietly in his cell and waited. Then, one morning, alarms rang through the prison. Guards stormed the hallway with weapons drawn. They reached his cell, unlocked the door, and stood in stunned silence. He was gone. No broken bars. No tampered lock. No hole in the wall. Done it. Well, according to the official report, the answer was simple. Sometime during the night, Yoshie had carefully constructed a brand new door in the center of his cell wall. He built it so seamlessly, no one noticed. And when it was finished, he just opened it and walked out. Of course, that's not true. That part was just a joke. But the real answer wasn't much less unbelievable, because the truth is, the more secure the prison became, the easier it got for him to escape. No handcuffs, no guards watching, no interruptions. Just one moment every day when a bowl of food slid across the floor. And so, hidden beneath his mattress, Yoshie began to dig slowly and patiently, using the bowl or his bare hands, carving his way out one layer at a time. For Yoshie, this wasn't the hardest escape. It was the easiest, because no one thought it was possible, and no one bothered to look. And just like that, for the 4th time, he was gone. For a full year, Yoshie Shiratori remained free. But freedom, he realized, wasn't what it used to be. He had no home to return to, no family waiting. His wife had passed away during one of the many years he spent behind bars, and his daughter, now an adult, had cut all ties. In Japan, having a criminal in the family brings lifelong shame. She couldn't risk being associated with a man still on the run. And Yoshie understood. So he lived quietly, hidden in the shadows, always glancing over his shoulder. The endless chase had lost its thrill. It wasn't a game anymore. It was just fear. One afternoon, he sat alone on a park bench. A policeman approached, calm and unassuming, and sat beside him. Yoshie froze, his heart pounding, every muscle tense. The officer turned, reached into his coat, and offered him a cigarette. Yoshie stared at it in disbelief. Cigarettes were rare and expensive in those days, reserved for the rich. And now, this simple act of kindness struck deeper than anything else had in years. He couldn't hold it in anymore. He began to talk. His story spilled out, the torture, the injustice, the escapes, the years in hiding. Everything. The officer listened in silence, at first unsure, then slowly it sank in. This wasn't just any man on a bench. This was Yoshie Shiratori. And though he believed him, he still had to do his duty. He arrested him, one final time. But this time, everything changed. Instead of sending him back north, they granted his request. After decades, he was transferred south to Tokyo. There, prison was different. No more solitary confinement. He shared a cell with others, followed a routine, and slowly, he became part of something. He played sports. He made friends. For the first time in decades, he lived. and everyone knew if Yoshie had wanted to escape, he could have. But he didn't, because for the first time, he no longer needed to run. He served his sentence quietly, with discipline and dignity, and after 14 years for good behavior, he was released, truly free. At last, he spent the last years of his life as a free man, not hiding, not hunted. And over time, even his daughter came back into his life. Together, they shared something that once seemed impossible: peace. Yoshie Shiratori died on February 24, 1979, and on his gravestone, beneath his name, are just 2 words: a legend, and that he truly was.